We will also be planting peppers. We will also be planting peppers at about the same time. And we have, in the past, grown a bunch of peppers. And our conclusion is we don't eat them. Henry and I are not huge pepper fans. But the one thing he really does love is roasting peppers. So what I had attempted to do over this winter is keep a couple of the plants from last summer alive in the greenhouse. Now, I know I screwed up on one bucket. It got buried and then it froze before I realized it had frozen. But the other bucket I've been able to keep pretty well covered this winter. And I have Mamma Mia Rosso from Husk Tools in that. And I have Godfather in that. Now, Godfather is a roasting pepper. It is a Burpees exclusive. And when I went to look for Godfather for the last 2 years, I was unable to find them from Burpees. They wanted to sell me live plants, and it was one of, like 5 varieties of plants or something like that. It's not what I wanted. What I wanted was just that one variety. So I did something that is totally against my religion. I went on Amazon and found some seeds from somebody who said that they were Godfather peppers. And they were. We were lucky. They came up pretty well, and they grew well, and we got a nice harvest of them. My husband assures me that the Mamma Mia Rosso peppers are better than the Godfather peppers. And since he's the pepper eater, not me, I believe him. So I've got a couple of Mamma Mia Rosso and a couple of Godfathers left over from last summer, because peppers can be overwintered. They are a short-lived perennial, just like tomatoes can be a perennial too. It's just that in most of the United States, they either get so disease-ridden or they freeze to death because they're a tropical plant. So we are playing with that. If I plant any new ones this year, it will probably be Mamma Mia Rosso, because we did not have the best luck with them last year in terms of the volume of fruit that they produced, but the quality was super good. So now we just have to figure out how to get the volume up a little bit, because Henry really does like roasted red peppers. And these make really big peppers, and you let them go all the way to red, and then you roast them. And he says they're wonderful. They're just totally wonderful. The other thing I mentioned that we would be starting in March is husk cherries. Now, some of you may have never heard of a husk cherry. They're also called ground cherries, and they are in the nightshade family. They are similar to a tomatillo in their appearance, except they're tiny. Tomatillos have this husk on the outside, and then you peel it off, and there's a green fruit inside, although my understanding, that's what we see around here. There are some other colors, I believe. I think there's a yellow. I have read the catalogs, but I didn't pay that much attention to them. We found that Johnny's has a husk cherry, ground cherry, call it what you want to, called Goldie, that we really like. A significant percentage of the harvest gets eaten as snacks. They are little berry-like things about that big. They look like a miniature tomato almost. They're sweet. They're delicious, and they do have that husk on the outside of them, just like a tomatillo. So they take a long time to germinate. They can take up to 21 days to germinate. So they need to be started at the same time as tomatoes and peppers do. sort of annoying because you have to have them in the greenhouse forever before they're ready to go outside. But you have to make sure that they're there in time. I'm also considering, and I just say considering, we tried growing roselle for the first time this past year. Now, roselle is related to, you can see what it looks like, okra. I was thinking to myself, I can see the plant. What is it called, right? It's related to okra. It is a tender plant, and we got, like, the plants were stressed when we first put them out. You start them ahead of time the same way you do the tomatoes and peppers, and therefore they produce 1 or 2 flowers. Then they did not produce any other flowers all summer, and then they froze to death. Now, what I'm hearing is that they are light sensitive, and that when the days get shorter in the fall is when they will go crazy and try and produce lots of flowers. Well, it may or may not work well here. We're going to give it another try because they really are cool. The flowers are gorgeous. They look like a hibiscus flower the same way as an okra flower does. And we would really like to be able to try to use them as a natural resource because you can make jams and jellies and wines and all kinds of stuff out of them. So we're probably going to try them one more time this year. We stopped growing okra here because it wasn't worth it for the amount of water that the plants took to keep them happy. We did not get enough production. Also, we found that the okra was very susceptible to aphids in our environment. So that was definitely not worth it because we don't normally have aphid problems in the garden. And it's been sort of ironic that almost everything that we've grown in the garden that attracts aphids, we have either decided we don't like or it's just not worth it. So we also tried fava beans, also called broad beans in Great Britain. Tried a couple of different varieties. Didn't like the flavor of either of them. They attracted black aphids, and we just did not get enough productivity for the amount of space and water that it took. They were never getting big and happy and healthy because we get really brutally hot summers here sometimes, and they just don't like that. And no matter how early you can only start them so early or they'll rot. We had one whole batch that we got from, I won't mention the company. It's none of the normal companies I use. It's a secondary, tertiary company. Rot in the ground. I mean, I actually dug them up to see what had happened to them. We had probably, out of an entire pack, 2 or 3 beans germinate, and the rest all rotted. And, okay, that's not cool. So we just decided after multiple tries and multiple sources of seed that it just wasn't worth it here, especially since neither of us cared for the flavor. And it's possible that our environment was making them more bitter and things like that than they would be in a happier, easier going environment. But that's the kind of choices that you have to make based on your personal environment. I cannot change the weather here. I cannot change the soil. I mean, I can amend it, but I cannot completely change the soil. And I certainly cannot, I can only barely control the weather. You know, I can put covers on things to protect the seedlings and plants from the wind or from hailstorms. I can put row covers on to help keep off the bugs. I can spray when the bugs get in and cause trouble. But I can't completely modify the temperature profile of the summer so that it never gets above 90 or 95. And, you know, and we have unlimited quantities of water. And, you know, no, this is Arizona. It is what it is. We'll focus our efforts on plants that work for us. So, I probably need to get going. I have lots more to do. I've been running through all my seed catalogs and everything else and deciding what I've missed. So far, I haven't found any vegetables that I've missed. I should have 2 orders of seeds, one from Johnny's and one from House Tools in this coming week, I think. We'll see. Well, it'll partially depend on some of these snowstorms that are coming through, because that'll make a big mess. Okay. There's a shallow path scooped all the way out to the greenhouse. I don't try and clean the bottom of it completely, because I'm better off leaving a little bit of snow on the bottom. Now, I checked the one solar panel here to see how well it'll clean off. Not too bad, but it's not worth cleaning right now. So, time to go into the greenhouse. Nothing like a snowstorm to, make it a little difficult to get the trucks through to deliver things. But at any rate, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, because obviously we're going to be doing tons more. I have most of my flowers worked out now. I will be talking about some of the other things that we're going to grow this spring. We're going to be trying a couple of new varieties. I've got a couple of new herbs coming in from Hoss, and at least one from Johnny's. Just different varieties of things that we've grown before. In the case of the thyme, which I think I'm getting, I don't remember who I'm getting that from. Anyway, it doesn't make any difference. Our thyme was accidentally exterminated in the yard, and it was a combination of factors. It all went badly, and we used to have thyme out the ears, and it just, the rebuilding the bed and all that kind of stuff just screwed it up completely. The plant could not reestablish itself, so I need to have some thyme. I have tons and tons of oregano and other things, but I no longer have thyme, so I need to create thyme by growing it. And last year we grew a ton of tarragon and did a whole stack dried. I'll be reevaluating that to see whether I need to grow any more this year again. What we're trying to do is, if you don't need it, don't necessarily grow it. And we always do have the option that if it's getting towards the end of the season, I can plant it in a pot, it can go into the greenhouse, and then we can harvest it in there as it produces. We will probably also put some chives into a pot like that, because some winters I have chives most of the winter. This winter I lost my chives outside sometime in the beginning of January, which is sort of annoying. I have dried ones, but I kind of like the fresh ones better. So we're going to be playing around with some ways that we can negotiate that one and have more green, fresh herbs in the house, and have to rely less on dried, still good, but dried herbs. So that's all something to look forward to. So until next time, bye. And keep on brainstorming, because obviously there's lots of brainstorming to be done at this time of year. Even if you're just figuring out which varieties of plants you're going to buy from the garden center.